Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation. What the IBMI community says about business intelligence. Thousands of organizations worldwide rely on the IBMI to run their operations. Their applications run on the I, their data is stored on the I. We thought it'd be useful to hear from the community on their thoughts and goals going forward. My name is Mike Stegeman, be your host for today's webinar. I'm the Senior Data Access Consultant with HelpSystems, working out of the Schaumburg office outside of Chicago. And today we have Tom Huntington, the Executive Vice President of Technical Solutions. Tom, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mike. It's great to be here, and I'm very excited about sharing what I'm hearing from the marketplace study, and also let people know I'm an IBM Power Champion, so I do work quite closely with IBM, and I'm excited about sharing some thoughts on what people can do differently with BI in the market today.
Beautiful. We appreciate you being here. I know being an IBM champion like yourself, you're doing a lot of presentations, a lot of road trips, a lot of things like that. So we really appreciate you being here.
You're welcome.
And a little housekeeping about today's session. If you do have any questions during the session, please use the questions, the Q&A section. You'll see that in the go to meeting, go to webinar area, and we'll address those questions at the end of the webinar. Okay, we're also recording it. We'll include a link to the recording, usually in a day or so, that kind of thing. So like we said, Tom's going to talk to us about what organizations are doing in their BI projects with using the IBMI Marketplace survey that he conducts. So let's go ahead and get started.
Sounds good, Mike. Yeah, so the marketplace survey is not new. We've been doing the IBMI marketplace now for 5 years. What is new now is in the results, we can kind of now see a trend in various areas of what you're doing on the IBMI platform. And certainly business intelligence and modernizing your systems is a very important part. The marketplace survey is usually conducted in the fall, so expect something around the October timeframe of 2019 for the 2020 year. Hard to say 2020, but that's just around the corner as we're almost halfway through 2019. This last year we had 650 people take the survey on their own volunteer time. It takes about 30 minutes, so we appreciate that. And let's just move on to one of the concerns that one of the questions we asked people was, what are your top concerns as you plan your IT environment? And probably no surprise, security was number one. That is the number one thing on every person's mind around the world, is how can I make sure that my data is secure? The number two thing being high availability. But then as we roll down and Mike starts highlighting things, we see analytics, business intelligence, mobile access, data growth, modernization of applications, and these all impact the IBM I environment, and really combined, they tell a pretty interesting story that there's a lot of you out there that are looking at your data and what can I do about it. And we start hearing things about artificial intelligence. We've been hearing about data warehousing for years, IBMI skills shortage. How does that impact you, and how can we help you out there? And Mike, what are your thoughts on some of these?
Yeah, these are kind of common themes that I see as well, and seeing the business intelligence there, the analytics area, that reminds me of many years ago. I saw a Steve Will, the chief architect of the IBMI, saw him at a conference, and he made the comment that your BI project should not start with IT, right? They should start with your business users. What do your business users need? What do your business users expect? And then you kind of back into IT and then back into the tools. So people who kind of think with the end in mind like that end up with a better result. So it's kind of interesting to see. And across the business intelligence area, you have the modernizing applications without modernizing the whole world. Your data growth and mobile access kind of all tie together.
Yeah, and if you think about IBMI, Mike, what is it? It's become a database server for many of our customers, and they're like, okay, we got to get rid of the green screen. Well, one of the green screen experiences you have out in the IBMI community is still the green screen report. How many people are still running query, and that's what they're delivering to the end user? And so consequently, why do you think they're still calling it an AS400? It hasn't been an AS400 for over 20 years now. Matter of fact, it's been IBMI for 11 years already that it's been the
Wow.
IBMI platform. Prior to that, it was the I series, and yet I still run into so many customers that think of it as an AS400. It's the system of
AS400.
record. There's a lot of data, and a tool like SQL can be used to really harvest that data in a modern format, along with making it easy so you don't have to worry about that skill shortage. It generates SQL at the end of the day, right?
Exactly. It sure does. Yep. You don't have to be a programmer. I am not, and I think I've used SQL pretty well over the years. So
You've done well with it,
absolutely.
Mike, for sure.
There
All
you
right.
go.
We probably beat
Now this
this to death, right?
Yeah, at this point we are going to open up a poll here. So give me just a second to launch a polling question. This is our question here. So give me just a second
Yeah, when it comes to
launch this
business
bad boy.
intelligence and data access on IBMI platform, what is most important to you? We want to know what's on your mind. And Mike, what are some of the options?
What we see here, modernization and mobility, right? Like we were talking about, getting off of the green screen, getting into dashboards, into graphical things like that, both in the building and as well as the end user. Data growth and analytics, right? Your data keeps growing. Your users need to analyze things. The IBMI skills, backfilling retiring experts. How many, you go to these conferences like Common and stuff. There, you see a lot of gray hairs as they call us, and
Go easy
skills
there,
are.
Mike.
I'm speaking from experience here. So
All right. Yeah.
another option is ROI, return on investment. Continuing to derive value from the IBMI platform. Is that one of your concerns? And then performance of the data access, right? What are some of your, getting the data out and having it perform quickly? So we're seeing some results still come in. We'll let it go for another moment or two. Yeah, it's going pretty good. Looks like
Awesome.
ROI looks like to be leading the way,
Okay.
followed by modernization and mobility.
An interesting thing on that, I was just talking to a customer the other day, and they were talking about the need to get their query users off of their IBMI server and somewhere else because it was impacting, and he was worried about the security and the production and not impacting it performance-wise. And I'm like, why don't you just create another partition? I said, how heavily are you using your IBMI server? And he said, well, CPU is about 20% and disk is about 40%. And I said, well, why don't you just spin up another partition or VM, if you want to call that an IBMI, and move your BI over there, and let's just either replicate or ETL your data over there. So something
There
to
you
think
go.
about. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So real quickly, look at the results here. We do have
a pretty good split.
tie there between ROI and modernization and mobility. Yeah, look at that.
Awesome.
Awesome. Beautiful. All
All
right.
right,
Go
let's
ahead
move
and
on.
yep, moving on.
Right. So IT initiatives is another question that we asked, and is your main application still green screen? And over a third of the IBMI application teams, end users are still using green screen on IBMI, but we see a pretty good heavy mix of both web and graphical, or thick GUI as I call it. And sometimes I get laughed at when I coin it a WUI, but really your web user interface today is where you want to be, as we see with the browser technology. That's all IBMI data in the background there being served up in a web interface. So Mike, any thoughts from your end?
No, it's just with SQL specifically, we can take your queries. We've talked about queries a couple times and make them
Yeah,
right into. And that's one of the things I'm going to show in the demo is how to take some queries and go right into a SQL
cool.
object, which gives you instant graphical abilities and browser abilities. So yeah,
Right.
that's a good one.
So then we turn to our attention to return on investment as one of the other questions that we asked the community and what they thought about their return on investment on IBMI. And every year we get a really high level. IBM should be proud of this number. It's always been in the kind of low to mid 90s of how happy people are with this server. And why is that? And I think it's reliability. It's that securability of the product. It's the high availability that you have with this server. And then it is really easy to build business applications on it. We just need to change our mindset a little bit now and look at what we're delivering to the end community and say, let's stop it. No more green screens here. We just can't do that, even if they are faster. They are faster, Mike.
Yep,
Absolutely.
absolutely
But guess
faster.
what? You're not hiring Tom Huntington or Mike Stegeman anymore. Who are you hiring? You're hiring my kids.
Right.
They're 25, they're 26. They don't want to look at a green screen.
Exactly. And every time I see the ROI discussion here, I'm always thinking that there's ITGs. They used to do the study all the time about cost of
Right.
ownership. And the IBM cost of ownership, the power system, was significantly lower than Windows SQL servers or x86 Linux, as much as 50% lower on cost of ownership. So that
Sure.
gives you the return on investment, proof right there when you look
Excellent.
at the licensing, the hardwares, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Excellent. So let's talk about the outlook for the server. And people are always concerned when we started this survey. I remember 5 years ago going, what are we asking here? Are people all leaving the platform? And reality is they're not. There's 120,000 or so customers worldwide that depend on this platform. Some are leaving, some are staying, some are growing. When we first asked the survey, we just thought negative. Hey, who's all leaving, right? Well, we see that 24% of this marketplace is actually growing their usage of the platform. And there's a lot of you that aren't going anywhere. You've realized it's a database server. You have a lot of data there from 2, 3 decades worth of data in a lot of cases. There is a percent that is leaving. The ones that we should be concerned about is those ones that are leaving within 2 years. And we see about a 1.2, 1.3% attrition rate from that segment. But then, you add in the people that are growing the platform, finance, warehousing, trucking industry, and other industries that are growing on this server. It's pretty stable. It's going to be around for a long time. Matter of fact, IBMI just had 6 quarters of growth.
Excellent. And I know they're coming out later in June with the new version of the operating system, and that kind of stuff just keeps continuing to grow with the platform. That's awesome.
That's true. Excellent. Let's move on.
Yeah.
I
So
think it's your
IBMI,
mic.
we talked about IBMI programmers leaving, right? We talked about the retirement early on. We talked about that. Well, business users, they want the information in the graphical ways. We were talking about hiring the young people, right? And people need to have that information, whether it's in a dashboard, pivot tables, right, or in tools like Excel. SQL is the tool for data access, but a whole lot more. You can provide your users with this information without spending a ton of time and money and move everything to a PC-based system. Right? We talked about the return on the investment and the cost of ownership. And you don't have to write programs, right? You're losing some RPG programmers, but you don't have to write programs. You don't need to be an RPG programmer to get out the data that you have in your system. So you can keep your processing on the most reliable, scalable, securable system out there, like Tom was talking about, right? With a current, easy-to-use tool. Right? And if you happen to have data on other systems, SQL will let you get to that data, whether it's DB2 on the I or Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL, just about
Right.
anything that's out there. All right, so now we're going to jump into a brief demo talking about SQL. Now, I talk about converting a query, right? So we're going to build some things here without any programming. I'm not a programmer. We're going to talk about dashboards, pivot tables, how you can do some things with Excel. We're going to talk about some of those things. So let me flip over then to my demo section.
Looking good, Mike. There we go. Yep, I see your SQL session.
Nice to see it. All right. Now I'm in Viewpoint here. This is our GUI interface we call Viewpoint, right? And this is where we can actually build SQL definitions. What I'm going to start off with, though, is importing some queries. Why not? Right? I have some queries already built. The hard work was done before. Why not take advantage of that, right? Why reinvent the wheels? I'm going to my library. I want to bring in a couple because I'm doing it from outside here. I can do a couple here and bring them in. And just like that, they're now SQL objects. Queries are left untouched, but now I can just display them. Data is going to be the same, right? But I can also display it in Excel. I can, print it. I can do all kinds of stuff. Opening it up in Design, this is our GUI design interface. Okay. So if I display, I'm seeing the same data, but you can see as when it comes up here, there we are, it's already in a more graphical, modern format. It's not our old green screen. It's on my PC. I'm looking at it. I'm going to make some changes. That derived field, that irks me, right? I don't want to have that out there. I want to have some other fields. I want to have some other information. So I'm going to add a new file, a new table out here. So I go out to my data library, and I'm going to pick the product part master. There we go. And auto join takes place, right? That allows us to automatically link the files together. Now I can bring these fields in, position them the way I want, just clicks and drags, real easy to do. I have them moved around.
That's
right?
always an impressive feature, Mike, when you show that.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I like that. I'm going to grab a couple of more fields here. I'm going to grab the region and this one called address 3. I'm going to change the column heading, right? This is not really an address, it's my city field, but the database was designed as address. Now I'm going to get rid of that derived field column heading out there, and it's always recommended to give your field an alternate name, a calculated field, and then I want the user to see the full extended price. I'm going to change the sort order. I'm going to add region and state as different types of sortings and just change the order. Now region's going to be number 1, state will be number 2, right? So I can easily have it, name as 3, and so on. I'm going to change the format, the display of some of the data. I'm going to make my extended price a currency field. Just click the drop down. Order number, you don't have to do something like this, but I like to make sure it doesn't have 1,000 separator. It kind of irritates me when I see that, right? Now, it's not all your fields will have that. You can see customer number doesn't have that, but depending on your database definition, it may or may not have it. Now, if I display, I've added a new file, I've added some new fields, I've changed a couple of things, right? I bring up the original one. There was my original. That's what the query had. But now, with just a couple of clicks, expanded more information. I got product descriptions, product classes. I've added a region field out there. More information for the user with just a couple of minutes, right? Now, let's add some more capabilities here, right? I have all my fields, I have all my files. How about a filter, right? Let's go down to my where clause down at the bottom. I want to make this box a little bigger. Mike and the mouse sometimes have trouble. There we go. There we go. I'm going to make region and equal to ampersand and the field name. If you use the field name of the file field as your variable, we will create it for you. Check my syntax. It looks good. Now I've just created a prompt. What does a prompt do? Runtime prompt, click display, ask me for the region. I can put in region 10, for example. And here we go. Runs region 10 data. Same columns, but just for region 10. So it's like hard coding it, but it's obviously a runtime prompt. Let's tweak the variable a little bit more. Rather than just coming out and say sales region, I want to be a little bit nicer and say select sales region. All right. Now by select, I'm also going to give them an option. So I'm going to change my rule and create a values list. Now this is good for short lists, right? Here I'm just going to do 10, 20, and 30. So when I hit display, I get a drop down for 10, 20, and 30. I'll run it here for region 30 just to show what that looks like. There we go. Same columns, but now I'm looking at region 30 information. Okay. If you have more and you don't want to keep recreating them, go against the database file. So I'm going to choose DB list and go out to my SQL demo data.
Yeah,
and
I can
here
see
I'm going to pick a file.
Like a parts number or something like that, right?
Right, exactly. Something that has a larger list, an item number, a part number. Yep, exactly. Yep, or if
A customer name.
Customer name. Mm-hmm. Now this is only going to be a short list. I only have 5 regions here, but it's just to demonstrate. Now if I can also have the customer number passed in the thing and the customer name come up in the prompt. That's what the description field is. But now I'm looking at all 5 of my regions. If you remember, my list had just 10, 20, and 30. And there's region 50. There we go. So I've created a tool that now users can pick which region they want to see. They don't have to download it to Excel and filter it out later. It's all done right here. Saving the information. I could have just hit the Save Diskette, but I like to the icon there, but I'm going to give it a different name. Let me typing's not always my my strong suit. There we go. Calling it orders two. I want to keep that original imported query and then have a new one called orders two. So just that simple, easily done, quite simple. Now, let's jump over into dashboards. You don't always have to create things in query. I'm going to talk about this while I'm clicking here. I could have done that same design tool and done it all from scratch, right? You saw how I added a database file, so just do it all manually that way. That's possible too. So now I'm going to add that newly created orders to out here. This is an important question when you're adding your a prompted view. Do you want the variables to be with the dashboard? No, I don't. I want the user to be prompted every time. So answer no to that question. Runs the view. I'm in new dashboard design, right? So anything I run is going to be on the dashboard. So I position the window wherever I want. It's customizable, right? Let's add another one. I'm going to come out and choose a different object now. Change my library.
So, Mike, you're just adding previous views that you've created, and you can put
Correct.
multiple on the same dashboard. Is that just part of the core product?
It is. It is.
Okay.
It's all part of the core product. There's nothing that you have to add. It's nothing, no separate licensing. Not all the customers use dashboards yet, surprisingly. They're starting to. I do a lot of demos and webinars, and we talk about dashboards quite a bit.
Neat.
Yeah. I'm going to create a chart, highlight my data, gross profit, for example. Again, I said I'm in design, so anything I place out here is on the dashboard. So this will be on the dashboard. I like to open the toolbar on here to make my changes because I get to one graph control where I can make changes as I want. Let's change it to a bar, okay? And then let's make it horizontal. I like the horizontal sometimes. There you go. Now, looking at it horizontally. Yeah, historically, right, you see things in a pie or in a vertical, but let's change it. You can also hide parts of it. You can hide the toolbar, you can hide the border, and with charts and graphs, I like to hide the border. That's just me. It's my personal option, my personal opinion, because then it blends in with the background of the dashboard nicely. Okay, especially if that's all you have or graphs and gauges, they kind of blend in nicely, right? I'm going to label things. Right, my accounting background, my teaching background always says, all right, you got to label things, you got to tell me what I'm looking at here, right? So I just create a title. You can change the font, the color, the size. I do like to make my labels a little bit bigger here. And again, I don't like to show the border, but that's me. Sometimes it helps to have the border out there, at least initially, and then you can come back in and edit it to remove it out.
So I see your function is basically like a business analyst, and you're building out these dashboards. Are these shareable? How do you get these out to the end user?
Once you save it, which I'll do in just a minute here, once you save it, then it becomes shareable and it's ready to go for other users to take into place. I'm going to add another view out over here. I'm going to find my demo. Now this one here, what I'm going to do, I'm running this one called income statement. And you'll notice the data, I'm just going to overlay it on here temporarily. Why am I going to do that? Well, I want a gauge that's going to pick up that final 2018 net income figure. So with the display up, I can come over to insert a gauge, choose my gauge type, right, which has a lot of different things. I came up with a way to do this too. We're using a custom image. I actually was even able to bring in an outline of a state. So if someone picks like California, it had a little nice outline of California. But I'm choosing just a dial here. You go through, you pick and choose. It's just how you want to see it. Do you want to see that? I call it the odometer reading, the main value. Do you want to see labels, right? Do you want the color of your circle, if you are using one of the circles or thermometers, to have different colors? Do you want the whole thing to have a different background? I like to use Black Forest. Reminds me of the RPM, right? The tachometer on the muscle cars.
Right.
Right? Yeah. And then again, background, border, that kind of thing. So now I can size and position my gauge. Again, if I was doing this for someone real or myself, I would label that, right, to tell me it's a net income, maybe in thousands, right? But now I can hide the data. Remember, I used the data to create the gauge. Now I'm hiding it. I don't need the data in it. I don't want to take it away because I want it to be there for the gauge, but I don't need to see that particular data, right? Let's add a quick action button here. Can label the button. I'm going to say it's a sales um, by sales rep, right? Going to change the color here of the button. The label of the button could be anything you like, and then you just have to tell it what the button's going to do. I'm going to have it run a SQL view out of my SEQ demo library. It's going to be my sales report, so I can go to the SAs and call it sales rep. That's what I call the sales by rep. That, again, that's a previously built view definition that we built in that previous screen. Now I'm just attaching it to a button. I can change the color and the font size of the button if I wanted to. Now I'm good to go. I have my button, clicking, resizing, right? I can do that. If I wanted to test it, I do a right click and test and bring it up, but position. Again, it's customizable. Do whatever you'd like. Now comes the saving that Tom was just talking about. So I want to save it as a system I object, right? That way, if I have SQL Web interface, I can actually run it from the browser, all right? Plus, by having it on the I, it gets backed up. If I back up my library, right, which you should, of course, and it can be secured. I can use the IBM I security or SQL security to do it. If I save it as a PC object, it's just on my PC, and if my PC goes down, I could lose everything. Now, I'm safe, secure, all ready to go. So now I have a dashboard all built out over here, and I can run it from Viewpoint. I'm going to bounce over to our SQL Web interface, the browser side. I'm going to go to the Business Intel library. There it is right there, the one I just created. Click on it to run. And this is again, our SQL Web interface. Some of our early SQL customers may not have the browser, but there's my prompt, but you can get it. You can trial it real easily, especially if you're current on your software. You probably already have it installed. It's just a matter of licensing it. So if we have any SQL customers out there, just going to scroll this in a little bit or out so you can see the whole thing. And there's the dashboard from the browser. So I just created it in Viewpoint, saved it as an I definition, ran it from the browser. The user can take the data, put it into Excel. They can drill into the summary data, dynamic drill down we have, right? I have my chart out over here. If I had the chart toolbar showing, I could drill into that if there's drill downs within there. Clicked on my button for my sales by sales rep. There's my years. I'll look at the number 7. And now I'm looking at sales rep data for sales rep number 7. All from the Explorer. You don't have to go to the Explorer. I could create a shortcut. It takes me right to the dashboard, right? You do that from the browser side. But now coming back to Viewpoint, right? Now let's talk about some of the things you can do. And here, there's different object types that you can build. We talked about a pivot table, right? SQL has something called a client table. Now, when you build a view, right, the data comes up. You're going to see the data here in just a second. There we go. I have a lot of data, rows and columns. It's nice. And it's all here, right? It's good. I could have prompts with this, right? All the stuff that I've shown you. But I can also go through a client table wizard and build a new object, a new SQL object called a client table. 4 quick questions. The title, which can be changed. Which fields I want on the left side of my table. I'm going to pick, pass them up here. There we go. Line, family, and category, just with a double click. Right? Click next. The columns. What do I want in my columns? I'll pick region and country. Okay. And then which fields do you want summarized in the cell? I can pick other ones here. I only picked 2 just to start off with. And I'm going to pick amount sales and unit sales as my summary fields. Now when I click finish, it takes me into the design. So if I do want to make any changes, I can here. But when you run it, this is what the user sees. They have the ability to filter off of any of the fields, even the ones at the top which weren't included in the table. So if I don't want to see online information, I uncheck it at a store type. If I only want to see online, I can toggle it and just see online sales, right? You can bring them back with the plus sign. So at runtime, the user gets to play with this. They can take fields out to look at less granularity or change the granularity by taking one of the fields from the view and adding it to the table. Again, this is at runtime. So I've added the store type and the territory, which weren't in my original table. I can click on a cell, and it's going to show me the data, and I can export that data into Excel if I want to. Okay, I can also take the entire table into Excel with an export, and I can also save it as a VPC. VPC allows me to run this table offline. So if I'm at a customer site, or if I'm at a trade show or something and I want to show this, I'm looking at static data once I save it as a VPC, but all the functionality, the filtering, the pivoting, all of that is still there from that shortcut with static data. It's actually looking at a DBF file on your PC. So you saw how I could take the client table information into Excel, right? There are other ways to get data into Excel. Everybody loves Excel, right? If you right click on a view from Viewpoint, you see right here, display results directly into Excel, right? You get that on a SQL view or a script view. Save results. If you choose save results as a PC file, one of your options is Excel, in addition to all your other PC file formats. Okay, so you can get it into Excel real easily. If you run something from Viewpoint, right, you get the ability right on the toolbar, save results or export. Both will get the data into Excel. Right, export will retain any formatting that you have. Save results gives it to you. If you go into something like email, you can choose Excel, and then you can schedule. If you have Robot Scheduler, right, you can, which is more robust than the IBM iJob Scheduler, it automatically will create an entry in Robot Schedule or the IBM iJob Scheduler if you don't have Robot, right from here. You just create yourself an entry. Boom, its job is scheduled. You can see this. You can also export it to Excel from the browser side. So I come over here. I'll come back to my Business Intel. There's my sales info information. Let's run this one called orders. Right? There's all my data, save results, PC file, including Excel. Right? From the browser. Cool.
You can go to many different formats, and that's from the GUI. No, that's from the browser. This
is from the browser side.
It all looks very similar, so sometimes you have to really look, right?
Yeah, it does. From the Viewpoint GUI side and from the browser, they're very similar. You have a lot of the same options and functionality. They're all right there, all ready to go right for you. Again, you can do it from outside design if you're in the Explorer or Viewpoint Explorer or SQL Web Interface Explorer, or you can display the results and do it right from there. All right. That's going to wrap up the demo. So with SQL, makes it easy to build your own definitions without programming, right? If there are any programmers out there, you know what you have to go through to get the data, to open the files, to do all this other stuff, right? You can do it all right here without any programming. We saw building a dashboard, the pivot tables, right? We saw how you can get data into Excel, whether exported, interactively, scheduled jobs, things like that. A lot of different ways that you can get information into Excel. Previously, I had done a webinar on just that, of the 4 different ways to get data into Excel. So if you go out to our website, you can see a recording of that. Now we're going to pop up another question. So it's whether or not you want to see a little demo of it, one-on-one, just for yourselves, right? So let me launch that. Go ahead and yes, maybe, not right now, or I'm already a SQL customer. So again, I'll take a couple minutes here just for you to make a click and make your options here.
Mike, the cool thing about SQL has always been to me is that you can take in a POC, proof of concept, load SQL onto your system. I know everybody out there has those old queries. Import them into the product and start running against your own data and start seeing that you can go directly to spreadsheets, PDFs, and then you have this browser access. And this gives you that, what do you want to call it? It gives you that satisfaction straight away with the product. So very easy to do. And, for me, I jump right to the POC with this product. But that's me. I got a lot of history and seeing a lot of this and knowing what you can do.
Exactly, and that always reminds me. We have a customer. She's currently a customer. When they were going through their proof of concept, they installed SQL on a trial basis. She had been given a task saying, "Can you get this data out of the system?" And she was trying with it with query and was struggling and was using the green screen query and really, kind of hitting walls every now and again. We loaded SQL less than an hour, got her up, got her going. During the proof of concept phase, which is usually a 30-day-ish trial, she got the results she needed, just like that. And she was so ecstatic. That really added, power to her when she presented that information to the executives who needed that information. They went, okay, we got to get this tool. It just made it so much easier, all during the POC, all during the proof of concept stage. And it was really cool. And we've had customers who been able to take a 12 query process where someone had to manually run query after query after query, and hopefully everything finished, so that one was building on another and was going through like this. It was taking half a day every day for someone to run this. Well, they were able to take it and put it into a couple of queries, a couple of SQL views, into a script, schedule it, and have it run automatically in a couple of seconds. So it went from a half a day man-hour time to practically no time whatsoever.
Right.
It was amazing. So I went ahead and closed that poll. So thank you everyone who responded to that. Appreciate it. So now we are ready for some questions. I do see one out here. It's asking on the GUI side, if there's any, what's the roadmap for the non-browser app, and will Viewpoint ever go away? I don't foresee that ever happening in the near future.
No.
There was some talk, a while back of coming up with a browser-based designer, but there's so many different pieces or variables or whatever involved that can't say never. Never say never. Wasn't that a James Bond movie? Never say never.
Yeah.
Something like that. Well, you can never say never, right? But as far as we know, Viewpoint does not have an end of life time frame out there. It's going to be out there for a while. It works with the new ACS, which of course works on Windows 10. So we're going to keep that going.
Yeah, I think the big thing too is to encourage your builders, your business analysts, your developers to use SQL GUI, and your end user community end up using the browser for the most part. Because if you think about what they're doing, Mike, a lot of times they're using more of the runtime prompting, which can be built in and run from the browser or the GUI. Why not run it from the browser?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What about Excel integration? How does that work?
Yeah, we can. I talked about having previously done a thing on Excel. You can obviously push data out to Excel, as we saw interactively and schedule jobs. You can also use Excel as a data source. So if you have like a budget going around to different managers in an Excel format, people are updating it, they're changing it, that kind of thing. Once you're all done, you put it in a certain location that SQL knows about and expects to see. Then all you have to do is run your view, which would bring it into SQL, or you don't even have to run the view. You run the script, which runs the view and brings the data in. Maybe you merge it with some SQL or with some SQL Server, Oracle, DB2 data, right? You merge it with your DB2 data, and the user sees information from the budget spreadsheet and the DB2 database using a script view, and it just takes a matter of minutes to do that.
So here's a question out there, Mike. We're thinking about running a data warehouse alongside IBM i. Should we run that over on another server on IBM i? Where can we run a data warehouse?
You can run it, because we make connections to other systems, you can run it to a lot of different places. We do have a SQL Data Warehouse tool that runs on the i, and you can access that data using SQL. SQL doesn't really care about the data so much, right? If it's on the i, it meets the IBM i rules, and you're all set. If it's on SQL Server, we can access the data over there using SQL, using Viewpoint, and accessing the data. So it really doesn't matter. But a lot of times we found that people don't always need a data warehouse. It really depends on your structure. Some banks, right, they really want to do that. They're real heavy into data warehouses. Yeah. People with really complex databases or a lot of data in a lot of different platforms.
And they need to reformat things, right?
They need to reformat things, yeah.
So
I see another question out here from Joe. Will your product allow a user to update the data or view read-only? When you're running stuff from Viewpoint, like I was showing, or browser, it's view only. So Joe, excuse me, Joe, it's run only. There are, here's the caveat, there are commands within the tool, insert, update, and delete, but you can't get them from a view. You can't get there from a view. You have to be from a command line or from a SQL script, right, which you can control access to. And we do have customers who use those commands and actually do update it. One of the nice things, it's similar to if you're familiar with the insert, update, and delete commands within SQL. They're similar to that, but one of the beauties of SQL is you can actually use the SQL view to do your select and your froms, right, and all of that, and your where clauses, and you can build conditional logic, right, to come up with a new pricing structure or a new salary structure or something like that to actually push data back out. So it's possible, but from what we've seen today, can't get there, can't go there, can't change the data. View only. Good question, Joe. Thank you. You see any more out there, Tom, or
I
is that
don't.
about all you
I
see?
don't.
Okay, that's all I see as well. You had mentioned before that some of the questions that come up is the dashboard part of the tool, data access to Excel part of the tool. There is an Excel add-in that we didn't talk about today, where you can actually open up Excel and get the data directly from Excel. Again, you can schedule a demo with us and go look at some recordings out there.
But that's just part of the product, right?
All part of the product. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Awesome.
Well, if there are no more questions, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up for today. Well, Tom, I really appreciate you joining us today here, taking time out of your busy schedule.
Anytime. It's been a pleasure working with you. I encourage you, if you like the marketplace study, go out. You can download it. It's a free piece on our website. There's a PDF out there. And in the fall, when you see that come around, we'd love your team to participate.
Absolutely. It's got a lot of good information.
Thank you for working with HelpSystems and being a customer of HelpSystems. Enjoy your June.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.